remember self-compassion, remember self-love, because while we are going through this very sacred, divine rite of passage, then yes, we might be a little bit more anxious, or we may forget the odd word, but stay with yourself and love yourself.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes. Hello, I'm Karen Mellers.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosy Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. Hello, it's so wonderful that you're with us again. It's our weekly wellness session on Alive and Loving It. And we're in our season 4 now, episode 38. What a great start we had last week, Rosy, with our new co-host, Evelyn. We had a great session with sleep, didn't we?
We so did. And I hope that's really been useful. It would be fantastic to hear from everybody that's listening how you've put that into practice.
And this one just feels like now we are in flow, because sleep is interrupted a lot for people, for women who are going through menopause. So let's hone in and go deeper on menopause. A medical condition, or is it just a passageway through life? That's what we're going to talk about. But first, Rosy, what is menopause? Please tell us. And the difference between perimenopause and postmenopause. Explain all of that for us.
Okay, well, menopause is a completely natural thing. And it's basically when the functioning of our ovaries starts to decline and they stop making so much estrogen. As I'm sure you know, that this whole function is going on between our master gland, the pituitary gland, and our womb and our ovaries, because there's a rocking backwards and forwards normally when we're younger and after our periods start. First of all, the pituitary is making follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, which causes the egg to ripen and be released. And then LH, luteinizing hormone, starts to prepare the womb for the implantation of the egg. And during these phases, so in the first phase, the estrogen levels rise, and in the second half of the cycle, the progesterone levels rise. And this is all hopefully cycling beautifully. And if it isn't, just to pop in that the way I have found to help people get back onto a healthy cycle is through reflexology. just through the feet. A good reflexologist can reach the pituitary and the adrenal and the ovaries, and can often, I was just going to say, I've got many women pregnant.
Let's not start that rumour.
But, this advice for women who've had periods all over the place and fertility issues has been a winner, just to simply go for some reflexology. And so as we go towards perimenopause and the ovaries are starting to decline in their function, the pituitary is pushing harder with rising levels of FSH and LH, a bit of a tongue twister there, but the estrogen levels are dropping in the body and the progesterone levels are dropping. And this is when we go into perimenopause, where things start to happen like irregular periods, heavier periods, different features of our cycle. Now, the reflexology advice can be a winner for perimenopause, because just giving a little bit of stimulation to the ovaries, which are around your ankles, underneath those ankle bones, and the pituitary, which is in the big toe, in the center of the big toe. You can do it on yourself, but it's so much more relaxing and helpful if you get a reflexologist to do it for you.
Yeah, I have had a number of reflexology sessions, and I know that big toe area because that's your head, and then down your instep is your spine. So it's always quite painful on me because of the scoliosis, but the whole treatment is so relaxing. I usually fall asleep. You've not got to have ticklish feet though, I think.
Well, what my first reflexologist said to me is that, like on your thumb, you've got a loop of fingerprints, and you've got the same on your big toe, on the squishy bit or at the end, on the underside of your big toe. You've got it's not a fingerprint, a toe print. And right in the center of that is the point for the pituitary gland. And if it's out of whack and you press that gently, it can feel like a pricking, like you've got a tiny bit of a splinter or a, tiny fragment of glass in there. And this is, the beauty of reflexology is that you can both diagnose and treat, because anywhere you find those either crystals or sore bits, if you just work with them gently and release that can just take the symptom away. Quite incredible. The first time I went, I had a bit of sciatica, and the lady found it immediately without me telling her. Found this spot that was sore and said, "Oh, do you have a bit of sciatica?" Yes. She worked on it, got up off the couch, gone. So yeah, that's one thing. But as we go further through, and actually these estrogen levels drop further, this is when true menopause starts to kick in and things start happening to our thermostat. Because the most common symptom that women complain of is these hot flushes, where what seems to happen is that normally if we would get a bit hotter, whether that was physical temperature or humor or anger or alcohol, anything that would just raise our temperature a bit, normally our thermostat would kick in, we would vasodilate a bit, and our temperature would come down. But in menopause, that thermostat doesn't work. So you start getting a little bit hotter, and then whoosh, off it goes. You get hotter, 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 hotter. Some women actually enjoy that feeling. If they are cold bodies, you quite like it.
I'm cold all the time. I'm always cold. So I don't know whether I'm having hot flushes, but I do feel warmer than I used to do. And to say that I'm in Scotland where it's not that warm is actually good timing for me. Good timing.
Yeah, and for other women, it's unbearable, that feeling that they've lost control and that their temperature is spiraling. And for some women, it's very distressing because they sweat like crazy. And I've had clients who've told me they are literally wringing out their sheets when this happens at night, and they are drenching. So that's at the very unpleasant end, this can be very upsetting.
So I guess everybody's unique in these symptoms then, Rosie. There are some typical things that happen, but maybe not happen to everybody.
Well, yes, and this is, there's a lot of focus in society on menopause at the moment, and it's great that it's in people's awareness, and particularly that men are realizing that there is a change in process. And my wonderful chef friend Jane Sen, when it was happening for her, said it's not called the change for nothing. Because, a lot of women experience with the hormonal shift, mood shifts, brain fog, perhaps just feeling just like the ground is moving under their feet. But I think probably the heart of this conversation is what's happening to us emotionally and how we're framing this, and how, are we seeing this as a massive loss, or are we potentially seeing it as a blessing?
Well, I think I see it as a bit of both. I mean, with anything that's ending, there's going to be a feeling of loss, and that needs to be honoured, because we have these three stages in a woman's life, don't we? Maiden, mother, crone, I've heard it described as. And that stage of our life, that mother stage of our life, is ending. So I would normalize it, Rosie, a lot of the emotion of feeling of loss, usually with, kids might be leaving home, empty nest syndrome. Yes, it's ending. There's something really powerful about accepting that there is an ending and honoring it, and grieving for it, and letting the emotion pass through your body. I'm a big believer in that.
Absolutely. And I think it's particularly poignant for women who always wanted children and for one reason or another couldn't, whether they never found the right partner, whether they've tried IVF and it's failed, whether they've had miscarriages, abortions at other times in life, because, this is for a lot of us what has happened during our reproductive history. So I think there's real tender, loving care and holding needed with that part of the transition. And I'm wondering, is this something that comes up in your women's circles?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really sacred time as well, Rosie. I mean, we create life. Women create life, and that's the stage that is ending. And it's such a precious time when a woman starts to realize that herself. I guess that's when you might call that perimenopause. You're looking for the symptoms of the periods being more erratic and heavy bleeding. And then as the periods stop and there's that realization that time has finished for me. And it's such a beautiful, sacred space to hold for a woman, like you say, who has either had children, not had children, but to, I'm going to say, celebrate that part of our lives, but to just acknowledge that there is an ending and a grieving, and not rushing somebody through that. It's not like we've just broken a fingernail and we're upset. It's deep connection to life, to the planet, the universe, and it's ended. So it's respectful to honor it, Rosie. It's respectful.
I really think so. And I've had two personal friends who had early menopause at 41. And for both of them, this was traumatic because they had late marriages and had still got childbearing on their agenda. So that can be very crushing. But I think we are also seeing, because younger women are leaving it later to have children, and often not even considering pregnancy till mid-30s or even late 30s, that this is this is obviously another whole part of this dynamic, is what's going on with our fertility, and is it safe to hold on into our late 30s? I didn't have my kids till two girls, 36 and 39, and they called me an elderly prima gravida,
That's a nice title.
at 36, So,
Prima donna, definitely, but prima gravida, I don't know.
yeah. So it's considered in obstetrics, it's considered elderly to be having your first baby at 36, and I was offered amniocentesis to check for genetic abnormalities because of the risk going higher the older you leave it. But coming back into the menopause frame, the other situation is that for some women it's brief, and maybe they have their hot flushing for 3 months, 6 months, and then it's done and dusted. For others, it can go on for years. So it is very individual and very different.
Yeah. And when we're through that stage of the hot flushes, is that the end of menopause? Does menopause ever end, or is it a stage of life until we die? That's always confused me.
I think it is a transition that ends, but we have to look at the deeper ramifications of what goes on. If estrogen levels are lower, what goes on with your skin? What goes on with your bones? What goes on with your muscles, your libido? There's a lot of other things that are tied in to estrogen levels. But, one thing you mention a lot is this whole fear of aging. And, that I do think that the current youth culture that's all around us in, social media and advertising, that I'm sure there's a name for it, but there's almost a phobic level of distrust or fear of this idea of going through this transition. And one of the books that I love the most on this subject is Leslie Kenton's book, The Passage to Power. So Leslie does a complete reframe on this and says, yes, ladies, we are changing, the bodies are changing, but we are moving into a different level of freedom. Freedom from monthly periods, freedom from how our cycles impact on our mood, the fluctuations in our estrogen and progesterone, freedom from the cost of sanitary products, freedom from worrying about getting pregnant if you are in a sexual relationship. But more than that, she's saying this is the powerful time of our life when we can possibly have the most impact. When we're moving up into our 40s and 50s and 60s, where we can perhaps, if we haven't already, move into the real impact of what we have come here to do as women in leadership positions, and to be there stepping up at that point.
And I see those two futures, one as being disempowering and one as being empowering. And yes, I'm speaking from my own experience now, but I, like everybody else, watch women on social media. There are a lot of women of my age and older, and I am looking for a reflection of myself, as we always do when we look for whatever heroes or people that mirror us. When I see women that are defying aging or trying to by exercising and getting washboard abs, and I think we've talked about us wanting more spiritual abs than washboard physical abs. But, the amount of effort it takes to defy aging and the amount of money it takes to buy products to look younger. Some of them actually work, Rosy, these products, but we're being marketed at all the time to stay younger, keep looking younger, defy aging. I think there is an underlying to stay well. There's an underlying intention to stay well. And I do connect with that, because I think all the way through our lives, we should be focusing on how do we keep ourselves, our optimum health, keep ourselves in balance. That is an intention for myself as I get older. But the people that I am surrounding myself with, the older women I'm surrounding myself with, and the women that I love watching on social media, are the ones that clearly look their age, but dress really funky and have stopped giving a damn what people think about them and say what the hell they want, because there's so much wisdom in there. I've gone cold all the way down my body talking about it. They're my heroes. That's why I felt empowered to let my hair go grey. But I do still want to look after myself, Rosie. So, you mentioned then about what about our bone health, our skin? What can we do to stay well while being empowered and look and act our age? Because, oh my God, aren't we powerful beings at this stage?
And there is a lot to say about that. But there's just one thing I want to bring into focus, which is the medical management of menopause and the fact that so many women are reaching for HRT, and that there are celebrity voices saying, do it, go for your bioidentical hormones. And, this is going to give you a whole other lease of life. And, for many women, they say it's fantastic. And I do feel like myself again. And, the sexual relationship is easier again because I'm getting vaginal lubrication and I'm feeling that my libido is up. But as you know, my main day job is in my clinic with people with cancer. And that's mainly women with breast cancer, because that's the most common female cancer. And we are now up to 1 in 8 women getting breast cancer, 1 in 8. And of those breast cancers, some 60-70% are estrogen receptor positive. So it's not saying that estrogen initiates the cancer. It's saying that it promotes the cancer. So it's like petrol on the fire. We still don't know what actually starts breast cancer. My hunch is that we will yet find virus or something coming in through the food chain. But that's just the rosy theory. But to me, taking exogenous estrogen as a patch or a pill is a worry. It's less of a worry if it's in a pill that's balanced with progesterone, because those two do work symbiotically. But what I have found with a lot of my clients, that to have some extra progesterone through menopause can really take the edge off the whole thing. And you can do this yourself with, it's called natural progesterone cream. And it actually comes from wild yam. So your body turns the wild yam cream is put onto your thin skin of maybe inner arms, inner thighs, tummy, boobs, and it's absorbed. And I get ladies putting it on in a mimicking a natural cycle. So 23 days and leaving a 5-day gap. And I suggest that that's done around the time of the full moon, both because as the moon fills, we fill with more fluid. Progesterone can cause us to retain a bit more fluid, which can create tension in the brain and a bit of premenstrual tension in a normal cycle. So the other reason is because when the full moon is out, we remember, okay, time to give my progesterone cream a break. For 5 days and then to kick off again. And that for a lot of women just takes the edge off the hot flushes and maybe is only needed for 3 to 6 months. It also strengthens the bones and it does also help the skin, and it is not dangerous in the way that estrogen can be dangerous.
That sounds to me like a product that can support you while the change happens, rather than something that is trying to stop it from happening. That just clicked for me that, if we resist something, it persists. So if we're trying to stop this change from happening, will it actually feel like it's going on longer rather than, accepting that we're going through the change and supporting it as much as possible, the symptoms, but allowing it to happen. Does that sound like,
Totally.
yeah?
Totally. It's just taking the edge off it. But on the medical side, for women who have this really severe heat and sweating, there is medication that can inhibit this. So one of the ones that's used is called clonidine. For others, some of the antidepressants can actually have this effect of calming down the sweating. But as we're going to open up into, there are a lot of things that we can also do naturally.
Yeah, wonderful. So that really landed with me. We're going to support. This is a change. It's happening. It's not a bad thing. It's not a disease. It is something that's happening to us naturally, and we can take the edge off by supporting our body. Before we move on to the next bit, though, just mention to me about brain fog, because I know this term brain fog, and I definitely do forget words. And sometimes it takes me longer to finish a sentence, which is bizarre, seeing as my job now is that we're talking on a podcast the whole time. But I've noticed sometimes with people that I know that there's an embarrassment about brain fog as well, about forgetting words or particularly mid-sentence. It happens to a lot of us. What is brain fog? Why is it happening? And what's your take on it, Rosy?
Well, it is a bit of a $1 million question, that one, Karen. Our brains get fogged when we are upset and distressed and disturbed. So I think if we are very upset about the flushes, about feeling out of control, about sweating, that we're distressed. And that will affect our ability to think. And I'm absolutely sure that our hormone levels do affect our thinking. But where I go with that is that there are a couple of really good supplements that can boost our ability to think clearly. My absolute go-to is something called Cyto Renew, CYTO-Renew from Cytoplan, which it started life as a supplement that I helped create called Timeless, which is a brain food and cellular regenerator. So it's got all the things in it that reboot our cells, and particularly our brain, because it's got the herbs, sage and rosemary and ginkgo biloba, but it's also got N-acetylcysteine, N-acetylcarnitine, alpha-lipoic acid, and these things that reboot our nervous system. And the other thing for our nervous system is vitamin B. So if we feel at all nervous, anxious, jumpy, we have to take a B complex every single day. And also particularly if we drink quite a bit of alcohol, because alcohol, the metabolism of alcohol breaks down our vitamin B. So one of the reasons booze is so depleting is because it's breaking down our vitamin B.
Yeah, and I think we can get into a perfect storm, Rosy, because our emotions come into it as well, which when we're in stress and we've got heightened emotion because we're either feeling ashamed about, the profuse sweating or the hot flush, or we're upset about what people might think about us if we miss the odd word, we then start to get anxious and then we go into stress. And that makes it all even worse. So we get into a perfect storm, don't we?
We really do. And I think this is where recruiting our partner and seeing if we can deepen our relationship with our partner. The other symptom we haven't put on the map at the moment is the vaginal dryness. It's called atrophic vaginitis, which is not a nice sound, but it's thinning of the mucous membrane. And this can make intercourse painful, and it can be helped with lubricants, but the thing that is the most helpful is some estrogen cream applied locally, which really works. But what I would recommend there is that there are 3 estrogens. There's estradiol, estriol, and estrone. And estradiol, it's easy to remember because it's got a D in it, is the dominant one that is associated with more risk of breast cancer. Estriol is a slightly gentler one, and there's a cream called Ovestin cream, which is made of estriol, which can be used as a pessary. But I've also learnt that omega-7, which is an essential fatty acid, is also really good for skin and mucous membranes. So you can get these capsules. You've told me that they're available from Cytoplan.
Yeah, that's the one I take. I take 2 capsules a day and have been taking it now for, I would guess, nearly a year. And funnily enough, I use the estriol cream. I have used that, but I keep forgetting to use it. And that is, my homeopath said to me, if you forget to use something, it means you're not needing it as much. So as I've been taking the sea buckthorn oil longer, I've not needed to use the cream as much. But yeah, I swear by the.
Well, I have such a good feeling about sea buckthorn. If you haven't seen it, it's the most vibrant orange yellow bush with berries that just look like little sunbursts. And I cottoned onto it when Walida make a beautiful sea buckthorn revitalizing body oil, which I've put onto skin things that have just started to look a bit off. And they've literally, after a few weeks, just healed or dropped off.
I have that experience as well. Just very recently on my right shoulder, had a big mole that was not looking nice at all. The GP checked it out for me to make sure that it wasn't anything nasty or nastier. But I have been laying on my red light mat every day and using the sea buckthorn oil, and it's taken about 4 weeks, but it's gone. It's dropped off.
Wow.
It's dried up and gone.
Wow. Well, my intuit is that this is an anti-cancer and an important anti-cancer thing. Yeah, I'm sure I healed what was turning into a basal cell carcinoma on my shin from sun damage. So, I think that is magic and something we can strongly recommend. The Cyto Renew, I find that even before menopause, a lot of people, as they're getting older, start to do that. Oh, what was that name? What was that film? What was that actor? What was that book? And the minute you get that brain lag, get onto the Cyto Renew, and usually in about 2 weeks, you can take between 1 and 3 per day, depending on how bad it is. It makes a heck of a difference. And again, you stop taking it because you're suddenly better. The B complex, if you are at all anxious, jittery, or prone to a bit too much booze, it's the thing that brings you round. The thing that smokers need is vitamin C, because the tar destroys your vitamin C, and boozers need the B. Well, we all need the B. That's my go-to every single day.
Oh, well, there's hope and there's joy. I mean, sea buckthorn is just the most joyful plant. It really is. But some really good tips there, Rosy. So I'm reminding myself I will put some of that on our Instagram page, and it'll be, the references will be in the show notes as well. They're such wonderful products that help us ease through this change. I love when you said take the edge off the change. Yes, great.
And then there are foods that and herbs that contain what are called phytoestrogens, which are plant estrogens. So phytoestrogens are about 10 times weaker than mammalian estrogens. So but so again, it's an edge off as opposed to a strong thing. But soya products are such, flax seeds, and also lentils and chickpeas and beans and grains such as barley, oats and rye, some fruits even, apples, pomegranates, berries, and veg. But the herbs that I've seen used to ease people through menopause is black cohosh, red clover, dong quai, chaste tree, and licorice root. Whether we have these as teas or herbal tinctures, these are the kinds of things that women have known about from time that have been used to take the edge off it.
Yes, because this has been going on for a long time. This is not a new thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so many things that can help us there, Rosy. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I was just thinking about with the bringing our partners into the picture is to also be thinking about what's happening to our libido, but what's happening to their libido. And what that brings to mind is the fact that in some cultures in the world, it may not be easy, but it's acceptable for a man to have a second wife or even a third wife, because there can be a change in libido. This is not part of our culture unless women are into the idea of polyamory and, allowing their partner to go off and have a different kind of sexual experience. But this is, I think, where we had our beautiful guest, Leora, light woman, talking about Tantra and intimacy. And the question of getting ourselves unhooked from the idea that the only way to have sex and pleasure and intimacy is through intercourse. Because, if we truly love each other and are honest with our partners about what's going on and what feels great, Leora does a whole piece about my yes and my no, and, and what really is okay and great and what isn't. If we can actually get into deeper communication, then it can be fantastically fulfilling as an evolution of our sex life, as opposed to feeling, shut down, frightened, and like we've got to push our partner away because sex is hurting.
Well, again, Rosy, I'm hearing those two paths. One is disempowering and one is empowering. Now, if you believe the marketeers, then as a menopausal woman, sex is not on the agenda, and that's normal, and buy these products to try and stay younger, which is not actually the truth. And what Leora's episode did for me was, yes, Tantra can be about connecting with your partner, but first of all, you connect with yourself. And if you connect with yourself intimately and you get out of your head, really, because our head can be so full of stuff that we're told we should be or we are. But if we can get out of our head and into our body, and we are open to the fact that maybe pleasure comes in a different way, but it is still there and it is still our birthright to receive pleasure, then you discover what your body needs now, not what it needed before. And it might need a little bit more intimacy and connection. But oh my Lord, that is sex on another level, Rosy.
Exactly.
It's not surface sex that comes quickly. It's deep, intimate connection. I think orgasms are mind-blowing when you get to that stage. So that's what Leora did for me, is that intimacy with myself. What do I need now? And then communicating that to my partner.
Yes. And I think that many of us grow up feeling extremely shy, very self-conscious, very embarrassed to have that level of communication, which is why those Tantra workshops and Leora works one-to-one with people and also with couples, because as you so beautifully explained, that if we know what works for us and what excites and turns us on, then we can get into learning more deeply what's going on for our partner, and the rekindling of that deeper love. Because, I will be so bold as to say that for a lot of women, the sex life they may have been having with their partner may not have been that. There's been a lot of unexamined assumptions about, liking this or that or the other. So when this brings it up into focus, it's just a game changer.
It is a massive game changer. And I think one of the reasons we can get into our head, Rosy, is that we're told we've got to have a perfect body to be attractive to our partner. And that is another myth that I think Leora can help us bust through. And she's going to come back on as a guest at the end of season 4. So, that one will be another juicy one, definitely.
One other biggie to put on the table is about the therapies that rebalance us. So I mentioned at the beginning reflexology, but acupuncture and shiatsu and homeopathy, things which bring us back into alignment with our whole constitution. And the clever old Orientals who perceived the meridians and the acupuncture frame of reference, they have a concept for what they call the triple heater. They and also the fire meridians, that are particularly affecting the liver, the stomach, and so forth. So those clever people that perceive this, and the acupuncturists of today, can help to rebalance our triple heater. So I would also say get thee to an acupuncturist, and there's a website, the British Acupuncture Council, where you can find an acupuncturist in your area who is super well trained.
Well, I don't think I told you this, but I'm all about the Qi at the moment, because Qigong, I'm starting Tuesday mornings, Qigong. I've been doing that from YouTube as well. And that has really helped me raise my energy, find that Qi, find the vitality. And the one I've done on YouTube, she talks about the triple heater. That's really helped me restore my energy levels. But I go to acupuncture in Inverness, the acupuncture clinic with Jenny Wren, and I go every 2 weeks. And yesterday, not only did I have needles in, but they were connected up to an electric current, and I had electricity running down my right thigh. I'm hop, skipping and jumping everywhere today.
You are now, in fact, a robot, are you?
I've got renewed energy, no pain this morning. I'm all about the Qi at the moment, Rosy, definitely.
Fantastic. And, at risk of being repetitive, the reset of our nervous system. So when we are in this full tilt, autonomic nervous system, the high alert, sympathetic, fight and flight, again, this is contributing to brain fog and to feeling so stressed. So you've heard me talk about the biggies, relaxation, meditation, because I started at the beginning by saying things that slightly take your temperature up, like being annoyed, being angry, or physical heat, or even laughter or booze, or, being in a hot social environment. The calmer your nervous system, the more that you raise the threshold at which your spike kicks off. So the more resilience you can achieve by being in better balance, both through the acupuncture side, but also meditation and relaxation. So those things, and on my drrosydaniel.org website, there are meditation and relaxation tracks, which are free and accessible, where you can go in on the Heal Yourself group of tracks. There's relaxation, there's breathing, there's 2 kinds of meditation. And these things are a game changer.
Yeah. And I would just like to say, as we come to a close with this episode, is that remember self-compassion, remember self-love, because while we are going through this very sacred, divine rite of passage, then yes, we might be a little bit more anxious, or we may forget the odd word, but stay with yourself and love yourself, because we are divinely perfect. We don't have to be perfect to the outside world. And loving ourselves and self-compassion and witnessing from others that just give us love and care will ease the edge. It will really ease the edge.
Beautiful, beautiful. And there's so much more awareness now. There's legislation, there's workplace help available. I think talking to your HR, or possibly letting colleagues know. So if you can communicate and create some safe space around this. But mainly, just know that this will pass. This will pass. It's a phase. And to use Leslie Kenton's beautiful words, this is a passage to power. This can be a gateway to the very best part of your life.
Give me a menopausal woman any day, Rosy. They are my best friends more than anything else. The power is incredible. I can feel it in my solar plexus. Oh, wonderful. What a great episode. I think we could do another one, because I know that there's more to talk about. We could have a whole season on menopause, I think.
Well, let's hear from our listeners. Write in, if these things have worked for you, because I know on our website, aliveandlovingit.org, there's also a portal to the Weleda, the whole range of products that Weleda have to offer. And they have a stress-reducing spray, and these drops and bath melts for relaxing, and beautiful things for the skin. Lots about that, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, the plants that support us through this change. You've mentioned a lot about sea buckthorn, but I really love the stress relief oral spray, because I can have that with me in my pocket and spray it under my tongue anytime I feel a spike of anxiety. But they've also got it at night. I take the low mood and stress relief tablets. And if I'm awake at night with an active brain, I go and take one of those and drift straight off to sleep. So
perfect. And some of my pals have been using the rosemary hair tonic if they felt their hair was thinning. It's another thing we didn't mention. So that's
another episode. Definitely another episode.
So thank you. Brilliant.
Well, thank you, Rosy, for sharing all of that. I know it helps so many of us. Thank you, love. Bye.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosy. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services, such as my Dr. Rosy Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats, and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us.
Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosy and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It, and we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.